Hello students, in our last lecture we studied about Young's double slit experiment. Now today we are going to study about topic number 10.6, diffraction. Now students, when waves encounter obstacles or openings like slit, they bend round the edges. This bending of waves is called diffraction. So what is diffraction? Diffraction is bending of waves. For example, let these are the plane waves. They are moving in this direction. And suppose there is an obstacle. This obstacle can be called as a slit. And you can see there is a gap in a slit. So what happens when this plane wave they pass through this slit? They will bend. Means what will happen when this wave will pass through this slit? They will start bending in this way. It is because initially these rays were parallel coming from the source S, but when the part of this wavefront from S, when it passes through this slit, what happens? It is diffracted from both the edges. So this is known as diffraction of wave. Students, if the gap of the slit is narrow, suppose it is having this much gap only, in that case what will happen when the wavefront will pass through the slit? The bending will be more circular, and if it is more circular, then we can say that diffraction is also more. The rays coming from the source are parallel, so diffraction takes place through the slit. The ray optics cannot explain the phenomena of diffraction. We have studied in chapter number 9 about ray optics. So ray optics cannot explain the diffraction. It is because according to ray optics, light ray travels in a straight path. Path means it is having a rectilinear propagation. Now students, Newton and other experimenters noticed that light spreads out from narrow holes or slits and enter region where one would expect a shadow. This effect is known as diffraction, and it can only be properly understood using wave ideas. That means wave nature of light. Now students, we also know that if suppose light from a source, when it passes through a hole, you can see here the aperture of hole is very small, but when this light passes through the hole on the screen, suppose this is a screen S, then we would expect light falling on the screen should be like this. That means only on this part the light will fall. So according to ray optics, we can consider light travels in a straight line. So here at this point, the size of this light falling on the screen should be equal to that of this aperture. But in actual case, when we observe on this screen, we will find this much region having light or more. That shows that when the light passes through this hole, it gets diffracted and we will get a large area having light on the screen. So this is due to diffraction. Otherwise, according to ray optics, we would expect only this much part of a light on a screen, that is that of the size of the hole only. Now about a single slit. Students, in Young's experiment there were two slits, and so from two slits we get interference pattern. But here in diffraction there is a single slit. Slit means it is a gap. Now students, it is clear from the Young's experiment that a single narrow slit acts as a new source from which light spreads out. Even before Young, Newton and other experimenters had noticed that light spreads out from narrow holes or slits. When the double slit in Young's experiment is replaced by a single narrow slit, a broad pattern with a central bright region is seen. That means we have seen that in Young's experiment we observed bright, then dark, then once again bright, then dark, this type of bands on both the sides when double slits were used. And we can plot the graph for intensity versus distance in this way. For double slit, intensity of each bright is like this, and all the bright bands are having same intensity, and all the dark were having intensity nearly zero. So this type of pattern was observed for Young's double slit experiment. But when the single slit was used, in that case also it was observed that at a center on the screen there was a bright band having large intensity. Then there is a band with minimum intensity. Then once again there exists a bright band but with very less intensity than this central band. So this type of pattern was observed. And if we observe a third bright, then it has a very less intensity for a single slit. So this type of pattern was observed on both the side when the single slit was used. So on both the sides away from the center, there are alternate dark and bright regions with intensities becoming weaker with distance on the screen. So this type of things were observed by single slit. Now, as shown in figure, consider a parallel beam of light which is falling on this slit. Slit means this is a gap. The slit is named as LM because its one end point is L and the other end point is N. So slit is Ln, and the width of the slit, width means gap, this much distance. The width of the slit is denoted by small a. So width of the slit is small a and the midpoint of the slit is M. Now the light diffracted from the slit fall on the different part of the screen. So students, suppose there is a screen at infinite distance, that is at a large distance there is a screen. So to find the intensity at any point P on the screen, let us consider parallel rays from points L, M and N of the slit, which makes an angle theta. You can see from these points L, M and N, the rays they are moving in this direction. Actually from these points or from all the points of the slit, the rays will move in all the direction. They will move in this direction also, they will move in this direction also, because these points of the slits they behave as a point source, and in all the direction the rays can be considered. So here we have considered the rays from L, M and N towards point P, which makes an angle theta. You can see here the angle made by these rays with horizontal is theta. So angle made is theta. Hence, different parts of the slit are treated as a secondary sources, because when this wavefront, we can imagine the wavefront due to this parallel beam as a plane wavefront. You can see this is a plane wavefront. When it passes through the slit, each part of the wavefront behaves as a secondary source. And so for points L and N of the slit, for points N and L of the slit at point P on the screen, path difference, that means if we consider this ray from L and this ray from N, then you can see here the path length of the ray from L towards P is less, and that from N towards P is more, and so its path difference will be this much. So this much part is the path difference between these two rays. So if we take this point as Q, then we can say that the path difference between the rays from L and N will be NQ. Students, from figure it is clear that from this line LQ, all the rays from that line will have same path difference. But if we consider from L towards P and from N towards P, then this much is the path difference between the rays from L and N. Now, as I said, here this angle will be theta, and this is a path difference which is NQ. Here the angle is 90. So if we take sine theta, then sine theta will be equal to opposite side upon hypotenuse. So this is the hypotenuse, which is denoted by small a, because it is the width of a slit. So we can write NQ upon A. This NQ is nothing but it is a path difference. But if we take very small angle, if the angle is small, because in this case these angles which are made here, they are quite small. So if we take angle very small, then sine theta can be written as theta. So we can say that theta is equal to NQ upon NA. Now making the subject NQ, what we'll get? We'll get A into theta. I hope you understood this. So path difference is A into theta. So I have written this. Path difference is nothing but it is NP minus LP. NP means the ray coming from this, which has a more path, and LP means ray having less path. So this NP minus LP will give us path difference, and that is equal to NQ. And NQ is A sin theta, but for very small angle, sin theta can be written as theta. So path difference is equal to A theta. Similarly, for points M1 and M2 of the slit, you can see these are the points M1 and M2 of the slit. So for that points, path difference can be taken as y theta, and that path difference means ray from point M2 towards P and ray from M1 towards P. Look here, ray from M1 and ray from M2. So this ray from M2 is having more path, and from M1 it is having less path. So we can find the path difference between these two rays also. So if the distance between M1 and M2 is y, then path difference between the rays from M1 and M2 will be equal to y theta. So this is the path difference. Now students, result of coherent contribution from a large number of sources with different phase can be calculated using integral calculation made by scientist named Fresnel. This method is not considered here because that type of calculation is not given in our textbook. So here what we are doing, we will understood this diffraction pattern with the help of simple method or simple arguments which is given here. Now at the central point C on the screen, angle will be 0, means you can see the rays coming from this slit towards point C on the screen. The angle made along the x-axis, that is horizontal, will be 0 by this rays. So here the angle is 0 for that. So as all the path differences are 0, the rays from the slit towards point C on the screen, angle will be 0, and so the path difference will be also 0, because we know that path difference is the multiple of theta. So if theta is equal to 0, then 0 into anything will be 0, so path difference will be also 0. So all the parts of the slit contribute in phase, means all the rays or the waves from the slit, their path difference will be 0, and so we can say that all the waves are in phase, they have same phase. And so this will give us maximum intensity at point C, because there is no phase difference, all the waves are having same phase. and so we get maximum intensity or a bright spot towards the center of the screen, and that bright spot which is having a maximum intensity is called central maxima. Now about the position of secondary minima. Secondary minima means on the screen, suppose this is a screen, at the center we will get the maximum intensity, but then intensity will decrease away from C and will become minimum on both the side, above as well as below. So this minimum intensity is obtained on both the side of this central maxima, and it is called minima. Minima means less intensity. So position of this minima, we can call this as secondary minima also, but in short we will use the word only minima. Why it is called as secondary minima? Because the rays coming from this slit, so all these points of the slit, they are the secondary sources, and so it is called a secondary minima. Now this type of minima can be obtained above the screen also and below the screen also. This is also minima, and this is maxima. This is maxima here, then once again there will be minima. So here we can call this as a first minima, and this will be a second minima, and this maximum which is obtained after central maximum is called a first maxima. So this is first maxima, this is first minima on the screen. Now position of secondary minima, its formula is path difference should be equal to, this is path difference, that should be equal to n lambda, and therefore if we make the subject theta, theta will be n lambda by a, where n is equal to 1, 2, 3 and so on. Similarly for maxima, secondary maxima or simply maxima, the general formula for the path difference is a theta is equal to n plus 1 by 2 into lambda. So if we make the subject theta, we will get n plus 1 by 2 lambda by a, where n is equal to 1, 2, 3 and so on. Students, recall about double slit experiment. In double slit experiment, we have seen that when there were bright bands, the general formula for the path difference was this for bright bands, and for dark bands the general formula was this. But here the case was reversed. You can see this formula is for the dark bands and this formula is for the bright bands. Now let us see how this can be obtained. Here we have simply written these formulas, but how these are obtained, that is explained here logically. So here explanation for the minima. Minima means dark region. Students, from this slit, suppose these are the rays towards the P. Now let the path difference between the rays from L and from N is lambda. That means the path difference is equal to the wavelength of the wave coming from the source. So if the path difference is lambda, then we can write here a theta is equal to lambda. A theta is path difference. So if path difference this is lambda, then this much path difference, that is for point L and for point M, this path difference will be half of lambda, because these are the midpoints of these two sides. This much distance will be definitely half of this distance. So here we can say that this distance will be lambda by 2. So I have written here the path difference between L and M will be lambda by 2. And so the contributions from points L and M are out of phase by 180. Means all the rays from point L to point M will be having a phase difference of 180. That means if we consider from point L, that is this ray, and from point M, that is this ray, then the phase difference between these two will be 180, or we can write pi also. And if we take any another point, that is here between L and M, and if we select any point between M and N, that is this point, then path difference between these two will be also 180. So for all the points between L and M, we will get the points between M and N also, which will have the path difference of 180. And so what will happen? All the rays from L to M will cancel the rays from M to N. Hence, we can say that the contributions from the two halves of the slit, that is LM and MN, will cancel each other, giving zero intensity, and so we will obtain first minima. Similarly, it can be shown that there are minima for theta is equal to n lambda by A. So this is the general equation for all the minimas, that is first minima, second minima, and so on. Students, as A theta is equal to lambda, so theta will be equal to lambda by A. But this is for the first minima. So general equation is theta is equal to n lambda by A, where n is equal to 1, 2, 3, and so on. So once again, let me show you how these minimas are obtained. Suppose this is a screen. This is central maxima. Then this is the first minima. This is second minima. This is third minima, and so on. Now students, you can see in this figure also that this is the central maxima, and above and below this dark region, they are first minima. Then once again you will get a bright region, that is first maxima. Once again you will get dark regions, you can see here, these are second minima. Then once again you will get bright region, they are second maxima. So it is clear that from this central maxima you will get alternate minima, maxima, minima, maxima above as well as below also. And also you can see the intensity and the width of central maxima is largest. You can see here, according to graph also it is shown that the intensity is maximum for central maxima. And then next maxima, their intensity as well as width is less. So students, we have studied about the condition for minimas. Now about explanation for maxima. Now students, you can see in this figure, suppose if we take a point P dash towards the screen, then the rays moving towards P from the slit, if the path length between L and N is 3 by 2 lambda. Students, earlier for minima we took the path length lambda. Now suppose the angle is increased. Earlier that point for minima was obtained, suppose here. Now above that, suppose first maxima is obtained. So for that, if the path length is 3 by 2 lambda, then what will happen in that case? Just look here. If this path difference between the rays from L and N is 3 by 2 lambda, and if we divide the slit into 3 regions, earlier we have divided the slit into 2 regions. Now you can see first region, second region and third region. So it is clear that this path difference will be lambda and this path difference will be lambda by 2. So it is clear that this is lambda by 2, then lambda, and then this will be 3 lambda by 2. So now it is clear that for this much region, when the path difference is lambda, we have seen that this half and this half, they will cancel each other. We have studied this in the case of minima, that if the path difference is lambda, then this first half and second half, they will cancel each other, and so due to that there will be no intensity of light towards P dash on the screen. So only this much part is remained, that is from Y to N, and the light which are moving from this part, they were not cancelled by any other light, and so due to this rays moving towards P dash, there will be intensity of light which will give us first maxima. For this region there will be no any intensity. So students, I have written here, for angle theta, path difference between L and N towards point P dash is A theta is equal to 3 lambda by 2 here. But as a result, path difference between L and Y will be lambda. This L and Y means this point and this point. So their path difference is lambda. And so we get 2 by 3 A theta is equal to lambda. Why I have written this? From equation number 2, if you make the subject lambda, then you will get this equation. So it is clear that this path difference is lambda between L and Y. So resultant intensity due to first two-third region. First two-third means this region from L to Y. This is the first two-third region. So due to that first two-third region of the slit Ly, the intensity will be 0 as explained for secondary minima. Hence only the remaining one-third part, that is this part, remaining one-third. So for that remaining one-third part of the slit, that will contribute to the intensity, which will give us first maxima towards P dash. And so first maxima is obtained between first and second minima at an angle theta is equal to 3/2 lambda by A. Why theta is this much for that first maxima? It is from this. Just make theta subject here. If you make this theta subject here, then you will get this. So this is the angle for first maxima, and I have written that first maxima is obtained between first and second minima. You can see that in the figure, in this figure. See, this is first minima, this is second minima. So between these two dark region, you will find this bright region, which is first maxima. Once again, this is central maxima. So here this is first maxima. It is obtained between two minima. Now, similarly, it can be shown that there are maximas for theta is equal to n plus 1/2 lambda by A. So this is the general formula for maximas. If you will put n is equal to 1, then you will get first maxima. If you will put n is equal to 2, then you will get second maxima, and so on. Now remember these points. Here this figure shows intensity distribution and photograph of fringes due to diffraction at a single slit. You can see these are the light rays coming from the source. This is a slit, and due to this slit diffraction takes place, and this is the photograph of the screen which is obtained due to diffraction, and here this is a graph which shows the intensity. From this figure you can see that the angular size of central maxima is directly proportional to width of the slit. Means if this slit is large, then this central maxima will also be large, and if the slit is small, then this central maxima, width of central maxima, will also be less. So it is directly proportional. Intensity of minimas are not necessarily to be 0. That means when I say this minima, they are having a dark region, but it is not necessary that they are completely dark. They may have some minimum intensity. In Young's double slit experiment, we get a bright band, then we get a dark band, once again bright, once again dark. But here in Young's experiment, this dark region are completely dark. But here, these dark regions in single slit, they may not be completely dark. They may have some intensity. Intensity and angular width of minimas decreases with increase in theta. That is path difference. That means from the center, if you move along this side or along this side, means angle will increase. And so what will happen? The width and the intensity of maximas, they go on decreasing. Students, note one thing: the mathematical expressions for diffraction minima and maxima are exactly reverse of mathematical expressions for interference minima and maxima. Now example number 10.5. Here in this example we have to use the data which is given in example 10.3. So now students, just look at this figure, that if this is a maxima due to single slit, then its width can be obtained between these 2 points, and these 2 points are nothing but the first minima on either side. So distance between the first minimas will give us the width of central maxima. So this is upper minima and this is lower first minima. So we'll get the width of central maxima, and that's why I have written here, for a single slit, condition for first maxima is theta is equal to lambda by a, that we have studied. And you can see in this figure, suppose the rays which are moving towards P, they give us first minima on the screen at distance x from the center. And so from this figure, theta is equal to x by d. Once again look here, this point P represents first minima. So you can see this angle is theta, and so theta is opposite upon adjacent. Tan theta is equal to opposite, that is x, and adjacent is d. But we know that here these angles are very small. So if the angle is very small, then tan theta is equal to theta. So we can see that theta is equal to x by d. So I have written here theta is equal to x by d. So already we have the condition for first minima, that is theta is equal to lambda by a. Also we obtain theta is equal to x by d for that first minima. So we can compare this equation number 2 and equation number 3. If we compare both the equations, we will get x by d is equal to lambda by a. Now making subject x, we'll get lambda d by a. Let us give this equation number 4. So this is for single slit. For double slit, we know that the fringe width of the fringe is given by beta is equal to lambda d by d. This equation also we have obtained. So this is the width of one fringe, and we want such 10 fringes in the central maxima due to single slit. So now students, look here. Width of central maxima, as I said, is the distance between the first minimas. This and these are the minimas, and this is the distance between them. And so, as we have obtained that here there will be first minima in above, and here there will be first minima in below. So if this is x, then even this distance will be also x. So width of this central maxima will be x plus x, that is 2x. Are you getting? This distance is x from the center, so below also it will be x. So x plus x is 2x. So width of central maxima denoted by suppose alpha, then alpha will be equal to twice of x. But what is x? From equation number 4, it is lambda d by a. So 2 into x, that is lambda d upon a. Let us give this equation number 5. Now we know that in the width of this, that is alpha, how many beta should be there? 10 beta. Suppose we are taking here n number of fringes due to double slit. And what is n given here? N is equal to 10, because we want such 10 fringes in one alpha. So 2 into lambda d by a is nothing but this is alpha, and n into beta. Beta is lambda d by small d, which is this. Now from this, lambda d on both the side cancelled, and if we make this subject a, then we'll get a is equal to 2 small d upon n. Now given that d is 1 mm and n is 10, so just put that value of d and n, you will get width of a slit should be 0.2 mm. So if the width of the slit is 0.2 mm, then we'll get the central maxima such that there will be 10 maxima due to double slit. I hope you understood this example. So here in example number 10.5, we want to find the width of the slit so that 10 maxima of double slit are obtained in central maxima for a single slit. Means if we use double slit at this point, at this place, and this is a screen, then suppose we are getting this type of 10 maximas for this double slit S1 and S2. Now at the same place, that is at this place, if we remove this double slit and if we put a single slit, then due to that single slit, the central maxima is obtained like this. So in a central maxima, how many maxima for double slit are obtained? 10. And so we have to find the width of this slit so that we can obtain 10 maxima of double slit in a central maxima of single slit. Now topic number 10.6.4, validity of ray optics. Now students, up to how much distance from this single slit the calculations of ray optics are valid, that we have to study. Now from this slit, from its center, we know that if we apply the ray optics for the rays coming from the source, then on this screen we can expect this much region to be the bright, because we know that the rays, they travel along the straight line according to ray optics. So on the screen this much region will be bright, rest will be dark. But in actual case, we observe that when we put a screen here, then the light beam which passes through this gap, that is slit, will have bright region from this point to this point. That means this much region will be bright. So that shows that there is a diffraction of light. So here, if we consider from this point, center point of the slit, and if we draw this line of diffraction above and below, then that diffracted ray intersect at these 2 points of parallel rays. So up to this much region from the slit, up to this much distance, we get the bright region on the screen which is equal to that of the width of the slit. So it is clear that up to this much distance the light follows straight path, and so the ray optics is valid till this much distance. Beyond that, the diffraction is comparatively large, and so ray optics is not valid the distance above this distance, that is denoted by ZF. So up to distance ZF, ray optics is valid. Beyond that, we have to use the calculations related to wave optics. Once again, let me show you that if the screen is kept here, then we'll get this much central maxima. If we move the screen here, then we'll get central maxima of less width. And if we will move the screen to this distance, then we'll get the central maxima whose width is equal to that of the slit. So it is clear that for this region we can apply the ray optics calculations, but for more distance we have to use the calculations related to wave optics, because diffraction will be more. So now it is clear that for distances less than ZF, ray optics is applicable, and for distances Z greater than ZF, wave optics is applicable. And this distance Z is equal to ZF, which is known as Fresnel distance. This is the minimum distance a beam of light can travel before its deviation from straight line path due to diffraction becomes significant. That means up to this much distance the diffraction can be neglected, and so it is a limit or validity of a ray optics. So ray optics is valid till how much distance? Up to this distance ZF, known as Fresnel distance. Now from figure it is clear that the width of central maxima, angular width of central maxima, that is theta. Theta is equal to lambda by A, because this width is obtained between these first minimas and this angle is theta, and so we know that for first minima the condition is theta is equal to lambda by A. So here angular width or angular size of central maxima is theta is equal to lambda by A, and so if we want to find the width of central maxima, then if this distance from the slit to the screen is Z, then this width is Z into theta, which is the width of central maxima. So Z into theta will give us Z lambda by A, because theta is equal to lambda by A. So here we obtain width of central maxima. Now if we want to find this distance ZF, then we know that at a distance Z is equal to ZF, the spreading due to diffraction becomes comparable to the size of the slit. That means at this distance the size of this central maxima will be equal to the size of the slit. You can see here. So if we take that condition, then we can write that ZF lambda by A will be equal to A. Once again, width of central maxima is this, but if we take this distance Z is equal to ZF, in that case width will be equal to A only. So here simply we will replace Z by ZF in this equation. So we get this, but this should be equal to A only, that is width of the slit. This is width of central maxima at distance ZF, and if we make the subject ZF in above equation, then we will get ZF is equal to A square by lambda. Here the ZF is called the Fresnel distance. Now students, note, if Z is less than ZF, Z equal to ZF, and if Z is much greater than ZF, then these things I have explained already here. Same thing is written here. So just go through these statements for these three conditions. Now example number 10.7. In this example given that the width of the slit is 3 mm, light of wavelength 500 nanometer is used, and we want to find this Fresnel distance ZF. we have the formula that ZF is equal to A square by lambda. A is given, lambda is given. Just put that values, as this A is given in mm, we have to convert that into meter. Even this lambda is given in nanometer, we have to convert that into meter. That is, we have to use the values in SI system. Now calculating this, we'll get ZF is equal to 18 meter. So students, if ZF is equal to 18 meter, if this distance is 18 meter, that means that shows that up to that 18-meter distance we can use the ray optics calculations. Beyond this distance we have to use the wave optics calculations. So students, this shows that even with a small aperture, diffraction appearing can be neglected, and thus ray optics is valid in many common situations. Means, if you are using any instrument, suppose this is any instrument from where the light is passing to our eyes. So generally during our practicals or experiments, this distance of the instrument from our observation is less than 18-meter distance. So for such cases we can use the calculations related to ray optics. Even if we consider our eye, this is our eyeball and this is the aperture from where the light enters in our eye. So students, we know that the distance from this aperture to retina, this distance is nearly 2.5 centimeter, and the size of this aperture is about 1 mm, and the light rays which are entering in our eye is from 4000 angstrom to 7000 angstrom. So for such wavelength, the image which is formed at this distance, that is 2.5 centimeter at retina, we can calculate according to ray optics, because for this situation ZF is nearly equal to 18 centimeter. It can be plus or minus, but around this much, and Fresnel distance is 18 centimeter, and here the distance is quite small than this ZF. So for such cases diffraction can be neglected and we can use the ray optics.